Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Peace and blessings, family. Welcome back to another spiritual conversation. I'm back in the building and I'm so humbled and blessed to be joined by Iya up in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, give me your full name and what does your name mean?
Well, isn't that right at the intersection of destiny that we are as people who look and they say, "Oh, that's Sangoma," and actually, we are pulling back. And what you see on the screen there, Iya Oludoye, of course,
Ah,
because we are a mother, we're a mother, grandmother, and a great grandmother. But we put Iya Oludoye then, of course, because the end part of like we here have a last name. The end part, my clan's name, I come from my father's people, Oludoyes. And so, the first part of your question, it depends on who you ask. If you ask our king down in Oyotunji, he would say, "Oh, that's Agbero Hinjade," which lots of people know me as that as well from the Inside Oyotunji videos on YouTube. And people who know me more personally like that would say, Iya Boone, mother of Ebun, my youngest daughter. Um, People who it did say in a reading, I would have a lot of waif. That's what my godfather said, waif children. I didn't know what that meant at the time. They call me Iya or Yeye. Um, my priest name, which I don't really give out that often, I am a priest of Obatala, is Efundele or Ludoye. Purity enters the house. And so we're in that way. I said to some friends that are moving into this project of the video documentary that's going to happen as we go to the motherland after 68 dances around the sun over here in America. I said to them, technically, if I, in my village setting, I am now Yawo Lona, because when you are moving then toward a definite place of humility, it's almost like the ego is cast off. Yawo, new bride, when people are Yawo Albatala was. And now, so as I go to the motherland, and some say that, we will be initiated into the Sangomas, but what I knew was I wasn't standing up like that to my elders, native born on the soil, when the young man who's going to take us, he said, "How will I introduce you?" I said, "Well, it definitely won't be a Sangoma. I am before them humble. They are my elders. Are you kidding me? You know what I mean? It's fine." And so, so Yawo Lona, Ona, as you know, is the road. So this is one traveling on the road to that next intersection. So that's where this interview actually caught me, right in that little intersection. Any other time I could have said, "Oh, Sangoma Oludoye," and we would have just moved on. But we're in a transition. That's what this season is for myself.
wow, that's beautiful. Yeah, yeah. Let me ask you this. Where are your like where are your people originally from? Like when you were growing up, where were they from and what did they practice in terms of as a spiritual belief or view?
Again, it's a wide story. That's what I was saying. Breathe deep. This is when my years, over in news reporting came in handy so that we could get a lot of information concisely. We are Iya Oludoye, born of Corona Elizabeth Smith Harrigan, to a West Indian, but kind of quarter breed. His dad was definitely, my grandfather, Iba, was from the West Indies, St. Thomas, West Indies. And he married my father's mother, Evelyn Harrigan, who was one of 21 children and the daughter of the Cherokee grandmother that I have a picture of, my great grandmother, the Cherokee Jessie Morningstar, then when she babysat me. So right there, you see there, then if we're looking at my roots reading, you say, "Oh, so the Harrigans, Hawkins, that big clan there of the 21 children," because that was Levi, an African man that married Jesse, the Cherokee and the African. That's my father's people side of the tree. And
Gotcha.
and so my father was born in Jacksonville, Florida, but really knew no life there. I think they moved up as he was a minor child. So again, our roots are as I know it. Growing up, I was born in Jamaica Queens Hospital in Jamaica Queens, New York, and I grew up over by Baisley Park for a minute. Over there, my grandmother, Baraturu, my mother's mother, lived over on 166th Place, and my mother, in her independence, which whatever age she got to that, moved us to Rochdale Village off of New York Boulevard. So for that, took us up to about 11 years old at the height of riots and in this country. And the people, the family, big family up there looked around and said, oh, I know you're not going to raise those children up here. So what's better? Okay, we'll go down to Savannah, Georgia, which was where my grandmother, my mother's mother, went to college. It was then Savannah State College, I think. And she wanted to return there after she had done her 25 years and 6 months and got to go watch from Squibs, getting on 4 trains every morning at 4 o'clock in the morning. And so we all moved south as the year was turning from 1968 into 1969. Our eyes have seen signs on laundromats that still say colored round back. And right, we were one of 6 Black children in a junior high school of 600 children. And so, that life changed for me going into puberty, with that initiation absolutely into that part of my life. Moved from a New Yorker, a northerner, to the South at the height of South. You could be walking downtown and little white boys would be scared, going, I mean, nigga. They just lose their mind. I came over and asked my grandmother, because I had never heard the word, in New York. What? Right?
Right.
So, right. Nobody say cracker or these types of words and stuff like that.
Right.
I lived in the Jewish community, Rochdale Village, off of New York Boulevard. So, that was that part. And then if we went over swiftly, because they said, well, now give your mother's people, So my mother's people, my mother was also born in Jacksonville, Florida, and her people, her father, she comes from her father's land, the Ogunbemis. They are really Ogun people that originated in, and I hope to go see it while I'm over in the motherland. I love when those Obatala villages are very high in the mountains. So they said this clan lived up among Obatala people. And, as I knew them, Fernandina Beach, Florida, Atlantic City, New Jersey, Philadelphia, and my Aunt Nancy, so that whole clan of the Smiths and that intersection, the Lampkins, that's the intersection of reality. We've done a lot of work, obviously. We've done our Alex Haley. Right. So again, I can say, we could do this whole 40 minutes just on the family tree, because over there, right, I didn't say that section. You're right to say so. My mother's lineage, see, I just gave you her father's lineage because she descended from my father, but I am the namesake of my mother's mother. And so those people are the lineage of the Kulibali of Bambara. And when it is that my firstborn, who is Yatua, mother returned, who is exactly the spirit of the grandmother I'm telling you about, when we sat on the mat for her roots reading, this is when, the Abba told us all about Shegu, Shegu and the children of Shegu. He said, you want to know who your people on this line was? That's 4 empires of the Kulibalis that ruled the Bambara people. So there you have it. At least those 4 legs of the tree right there. And a lot of people, so basically, because that family right there, Dr. Kit Wade, it come down from Ned Pollins. They had maybe 11 children by birth, Fanny and Kitty Baratroon, but they were people because they were midwives and ministers and people that held, all the blacks met in there, how the first black school and all that happened down there in Coosawhatchee, South Carolina. They were those people. And so there was some, as a child growing up, I understood that family to have about 13, 14 children on that level.
Wow.
Yep. One of which, Johnny Wade, he was pulled in like that. They went and rescued people's babies as the white people was chasing them through the woods and stuff, going to kill this parent, hang that parent. And so my people were midwives. And so my Uncle Johnny Baratu, we were talking about him today because he was that conductor, that coachman, that when we came from the north like that, he had already done the house, the real estate. Here's where y'all gonna eat. Took us to Morrison's cafeteria and just really made us feel at home in Savannah. Wow. He was that transition piece. And I don't know what your next question is, but I'll go ahead and hit it since I'm right here at
Okay.
this story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of people ask me, they say, well, how did you know? And, when did you know that you had certain gifts or abilities? And I tell this story exactly right here. I say, tell them about me moving, and Uncle Johnny was that person that first year, anything we needed, wherever we need to go, whatever we need to do. And then Uncle Johnny got sick and Uncle Johnny died. And about 2 weeks after his funeral, I was out in the backyard of my grandmother's house on 37th Street in Savannah, and I was turning around to go back to the house, and there was Uncle Johnny standing there like I'm looking at you, and he had on a red and black lumberjack jacket shirt, smiling so big at me, and it didn't scare me. But my mind went to racing real fast because I had the funeral right here. And here's Uncle Johnny right here. Okay, what? And so I went right on in, and I asked Grandma, Uncle Johnny is at the back gate. And so she said, all right, baby, sit down. And she went into her bedroom and she brought back out her Bible and she opened it up, and they had the veil, back when you are born in the call, the grandmothers, midwives and stuff, they keep the tissue. Is actually the embryonic sac that we are born, and it's stuck over our eyes. And so the old women would say, oh, this is a child with a foot in both worlds. They're going to see him in both worlds. And so I told this story to the producer and director of this docu-story we're doing. And I said, you have no idea until you grow older and see the numbers of people whose people didn't have her, my grandmother. And therefore, those children were put into mental institutions and drugged and all types of things, because between the Christian church and just, oh, really? You was talking to the moon and what? And, they thought she was a little more than special. And you were not treated that way. But that conversation that we had, that was everything. It's everything, Rolanda, everything. For because she had the sight as well, for her to tell me, oh, and you may not always see him, but the hairs are standing on the face, like just like any other class. And she told me what to expect and what to understand, and most of all, no fear. She's taught me so many things. Live every day as if it's your last, and I grew up with no fear of death, and just amazing sharing in there. So that really is the basis of anything else that we would speak about in terms of how that news reporter got to who we see here. Right.
So when you were in like your 20s, right, were you raised in this African system the way we know it now?
So here's that story.
Something you were introduced to. Okay.
Here's that story. That story is right in that same section of time as we are moving down from North to South Carolina. And we have I call her now the medicine woman over my head was my Aunt Sadie. But Aunt Sadie was one of many women. You say, what kind of people you come? I come from root women. There's
right.
No about it, right. And so Aunt Sadie's mother, Aunt Ardell Barataroon, if you went right now right off exit 33, then you would be passing by where Aunt Ardell had her whole what you call it, like a diner inn. But of course, the back room was this deal. And so, no, they weren't Yorubas. They were daughters of Isis, Eastern Star, as am I. And, they would, and right when I got in, it said that you're going to be a member of every secret society. The traditional Africa these were all of them. And it so happened, and to that degree that we would say really the only meeting of the Eastern Star I went to, it was my initiation into amazing. And I could see all their reaches. I pointed them out to them at the store. I said, oh, here's our shoe. Of course, these poor little ladies in the church didn't know what I was talking about. So in that period of time, the thing to do, like you take a Sunday drive, was, we'll go see Aunt Sadie, who lives in South Carolina, right there in Coosawhatchee. And in 1968, I guess, the Alba, as was born Walter Eugene King from Black Bottom, Detroit, Michigan. had to leave. Okay, the shootout had happened at Aretha Franklin's father's church, and so the men
Mhm.
up under the king, he wasn't the king at that time, he was just Serge, and they said, well, no, sir, we have to go now. And so the Abba, such a genius and visionary, knew that the climate and all of these things of South Carolina, another longer story of why slave ships Charleston, slave ship Savannah, the Gullah Geechee Nation,
Mhm.
like that's another long story. But so he that intersection of destiny looked like when we moved north and there, and we would go visit Aunt Sadie, and Aunt Sadie said, I gotta take you out there to see Baba. And if you know anything about my Aunt Sadie, right, it never worked for another. So her whole life, her whole time on earth, she, that's the way she was raised. And so we're in the Cadillac, we go, and we're going through the fields, and I behold a hut and a light-skinned man and a bunch of naked little children. This is 1969. Because they were on Page Point. The village as we know it now was founded in 1970. I
Right.
was 11 years old right there, 11 or 12 years old when I met the Abba. And this was just, how old are you?
I'm 51.
Okay, because that you would barely grasp this, that
Right.
my life covers a period of time where there were no people that looked like us in our books, our schools, all the
Mm-hmm.
pictures in the churches were white. Okay,
Yep.
you know what I'm saying? So I was that child born in the car that even been in Mr. Dick Janus Fire said, no, I'd hear whispers about Uncle Tom's cabinet and so that. And so I would go down to the library and get the little, take me. I know you got black books in here. I know you do. And so I would get those, right? And so, you know, it was like going back in time, Rolanda. The vision is right there in my mind to first of all be in the country and then, in the woods and everything like that. Again, I lived in Rochdale Village, 18 story buildings, off of New York Boulevard. And to see people living, to see a light-skinned man, bare-chested, coming out, these little naked babies. And after I said, whoa, whoa. And that was my first meeting of and so Serge, being a wise man, when he came into the area to settle, he wanted to meet the likes of a Sadie Pearl, because that's how how you're going to move with readings and divinations and who the
Mhm.
people are in the neighborhood you just moved into. So they were very, very good friends. Of course, that's why she took us out there to meet him. And it went on to catch you, and you think I won't, but I do. When I was 20, I had left school early because, Savannah, okay, we need not say anything more. And I looked at my mother. I said, I'll go to school all year round because I have to go. I cannot stay. It's too much. And so we went, and we were lucky enough to get full scholarship to Clark University up at Holy Cross, and then all them schools up there, Boston, New England. And so that's exactly where we were at 20 years old. We went to college in that August because we just went nonstop. Give me all the English, I got to go. And then we went right into Clark that September of 1973, and we graduated there in 1977. So, the likes of amazing things, again, these kids don't know: Earth, Wind, Fire, Funkadelic,
Woo!
amazing,
Mhm.
amazing buildings of, 20,000 people, too many people, and explosions and stuff on the stage, and Roy Ayers, and parties all night, and blue light basement parties. And so,
Right.
yeah, that's what my life looked like at 20. And I'm trying to think as a marriage and children and these things happen. I think it was actually at the beginning of this marriage. This is my second marriage. And as I moved into this community of Winfield, this is like all his people out here in the country, about 40 minutes north of Augusta, about 2 hours south of Atlanta.
Mhm.
Yeah, my youngest daughter just outright, she said, my life is not on this dirt road, Mom. She was about a leg, but she said, my life is not. She wasn't even 8 years old. And I said, you're right. Because again, the preciousness of having birth readings of the children. And we really didn't see that before a minute with Ebon, Iya Ebon, the gift. And the king did say, she's not from either one of y'all. She's not even, I've looked back. We're going to call her the gift. So
Oh,
how would something like that even what really? But that's another story. So off she went back to New Orleans, and now, barely at 40, she's the owner of 7 businesses, major boudoir photography studio. I just stayed over there off Esplanade Avenue,
wow.
husband and a wife, and 3 beautiful children. And oh my goodness, what a lucky girl. What a
I
lucky girl. Some
I
people can't
know.
even do it good with one other person. Okay. And so you just look at her and she said, "Well, that's why your name is the gift. That is why."
I know.
Yeah. So my firstborn, yeah, two of their mother returned. She was born in Savannah, and she's a real geechee girl and real close. She lived right over here in Aiken. The other two live in New Orleans. I've lived in New Orleans for a while, but the 3 daughters, and life in evolutions of living in the South, being a northerner.
Hmm.
And after all these years, glad to say I'm very well adopted into these clans and so
Yeah,
forth.
I
So
know.
they know I'm different. Truly, they've gotten that picture part. We but it was good. It was good when I was in Mount Carmel, and maybe that helped them because coming in, that wasn't strange for me. I was baptized in Beth Eden Baptist Church in Savannah, Georgia. So again, I could
Right
be in
on.
any building. I could be in a synagogue. I could be in a church. I could be
Right
in the
on.
middle of the village with drums. We still here. And the anointing is still the same. And they readily saw that. And they also saw that I wanted the entire nativity play to be in African clothes and stuff. And so,
So how did you find out what Orisha was the head for you? Like, how did you know
yeah, that would go back to when I returned somewhere there in those college years. So probably after I graduated. Yeah. Yeah. When I got really serious about it, I had already ended my first marriage of 9 years. This is saying a good bit. And my kids were, maybe pre-puberty kind of age, and a life from a lot of parts. Again, long story. We are doing books. My brother was dying of AIDS at that point. We're in 1988 now. And
about?
so it's only me and my brother. This is my mother's world. So that really moved me. At the time, I was in the news department there up at WNHC radio, some radio station in New Haven, Connecticut, all of my life, teaching, modeling, health food store, this, that, reporting. And that was happening. I was in a 9 year, and life switched again. And that looked like I would return to be a strength for my mom. And so I did, because I could. You know what I mean? That's what when you have gone to college, and I said, fine, no problem. I'll come here whether I work in Savannah or whatever I do, but you need not to be alone right at this point. So that was a big change for me. And with that also came this young man, he's be 70 this year, who was an angel sent. That's another long story. This is why people will read the book. Seriously, we were introduced over the telephone. We met at the bus station in Augusta. That is a longer story. But he is in there 34 years later. And he would always be sitting at the hospital. And he was really, I say, he and my mother were married in another life. He was just like another brother to me. And as this
Mhm.
brother was dying, he just showed up. I didn't know him, sweetheart. They sent me a picture through the mail. And every day in the hospital, if we even looked like we was hungry, my mother and I, he would go to Red Lobster or wherever, get the food, whatever we need. He was just sent by God. And we got married, and as we got married and I was acclimating into this community where they were still out there picking the greens and the turnips out the ground. I didn't even know what I was picking up out of the dirt pool. No country, nothing, but we had to learn all that. And so I guess my spirit had to pull, and then the remembrances of the king in that hut, and the wonder what they doing and stuff like that. And so between this life, new married, and my watching after my mother, older now, right over there in Kusahatchee, she don't live but 10 minutes from the village. So that happened, and as I went in, Iya Onishango, Iya Oshadele Ibaraturu, priest of Shango. She, another Pisces. She was more or less the person that just said, "Oh, come on in here, get a rake, get a paintbrush, what do you need?" And so she wound up doing my first reading. And to answer you, that was the moment that we found out we were a child of Obatala. Not even hardly knowing what that meant. Prior to that, yeah, Angela Davis, Black Panthers. I had a lot of information in me, but I did not have Orisha information of an oracle of Ifa or a culture or no separation between church and state. This is all new for me, but spirit, the ancestors walking with us here, knew absolutely what to do. So boom, 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 boom. And the next thing, no, I said, initiate her. Okay, you see how she works. Okay, and so we were initiated and had to really because death was, again, like I say, was an ease for me. Whereas my mother couldn't even go down to see her mother in the casket. I was a child, and I go, okay, I'll go check her hair and see if the lipstick is right and everything like that. And from a young child, I was just very well associated to the dead, whether I was looking at their physical dead or they were right present with me, no longer in a physical body, but present with me. There was no division between myself and the realms of the dead. And they, of course, Yujunji noticed that right away. He said, "Hey, Gungun Society, please, because she walks with a lot of spirits. We got to get an anchor on that." So that came first, that we were initiated into the Society of Ancestral Priests. And that really does, for me, give you a cultural basic. Okay, here's the pledge, here's what we need to know. It'd be good if you could speak the same language of your ancestors. Yeah, they'll hear and understand you in English, but they move on their own language. And that inspired us in so many ways. The Abai Kennedy just couldn't even be enough said about Adefumi the First. And the levels to which he wanted us to embrace our culture, unlike the cults or the Jim Joneses or the whatever people. And people have said all of that and more, I'm so sure, about Oya Change. But unlike that, to say, no, pay attention. We exactly did these compound architectures so this is here really for people who will never be able to afford to go back home and see what is theirs. We will build it here. And that was pretty stout at the end of the 60s for Pan-Africanists coming off of Chicago, New York, Detroit, to say, yeah, we'll go tangle with the alligators and the snakes down in this swampland, the low country of South Carolina, and we will do this. And 54 years later, I believe we are the oldest intentional community of Africans or African Americans in North America.
Yeah. Wow. So what is the duty of a priestess of Obatala? What is that duty?
I love this part. I do, because I was that eager beaver, can't you tell? And so all through the initiation, and my Yelosha was very sure to tell me, I don't know how we got on the subject. It was probably how many whites I needed and stuff like that. And so she said, well, back home, Yawos are 7 years. And I was like, wow. Because at that time it was very trendy. Okay, people could come in 7-10 days, good money, and bam, you was done. But that wasn't for me. And then if Odus at all, I'm the 16th Ofun, ancient Obatala right here. And so I knew for a fact that I was going, the year probably was going to go as long as I could within that 7. I wound up going 3, that I stayed in all white. Yawo, and only really because my godfather ascended, went through the roof, and his son became king, and they just said, no, we got to pull you out, press secretary, this whole thing, we got to pull you out. And so then we moved into the active priesthood, but we were very happy as a Yawo. And I said, as I was coming into the newness of it, to my Eolosha, I said, she could see I was the eager beaver. She said, well, here's what you know. She is a Leo and bullets went by her ears. She's an ex-Black Panther, you know what I'm saying? And so her royal grace, Odufonda Daramola. And she said, here's what you know. She said, if you really want to be a good priest of Obatala, you will learn how to keep your head when others are losing theirs.
Mm.
Will learn to become the eye in the calm of the storm with such a relationship to Oya. If it's a hurricane moving and stuff flying, are you the calm in the eye of the storm? That's Obatala. Obatala, the old, wise one, is slow but sure. We had discussions about the snail or why the snail is the symbol of Obatala. She said, well, eventually you're going to get across that road, aren't you? And so, no, we're not fast like a leg, but no, we're not moving like a goon. We are Obatala. We are slow but sure, and studious and benevolent and patience. And Obatala is the god of laughter. That I'm a little short in, I miss the pun of a joke most of the time. A good listener, I do think in whatever presence of the Orisha has is in the embodiment and the growth within me. It lives in my empathetic spirits. It lives in, like, when that happened to Pelosi's husband, and I was just up in the
Mm.
hospital room for 3 nights with him, or Christmases in Connecticut with the mother still going in the children's room, just sit on the bed, and have a good cry. They're not able to buy presents for those children anymore. This year, they're sitting with the parents in Uvalde. I ain't been to none of them places. I don't know none of them people. But that I have to say, and I stay in the mountains, I stay in the clouds where Obatala is a lot. But that quiet and that stillness, prayerful, I think that's the essence of Obatala that I know the best to answer.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
How many years have you been a priestess of Obatala?
Egungun was, I always say, it's spring of '94. I'm pretty sure I'm right. And Obatala would be, because my mom was here, 2002, August 26, 2002. Where we at? So 21 years, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My, how time
Have you?
flies.
Yeah. Did you grow up with people who did not necessarily get that information?
which
And
which
like in terms of learning about African spirituality, and then you look up, like you said, y'all see each other 30, 40, 50, 60 years later, and your lives have, just been very different.
Absolutely. Let me go back to the big five. We are infamous because in that year in 1973, when we arrived at Clark University, there were 5 Black women and 5 Black men, all brought in on full scholarship, right? And so my dearest, my roommate, with Grenetta Briggs, is now Reverend Grenetta Briggs, has a radio show and stuff like yours, lives in Harlem, New York, from Memphis, Tennessee. And then she just fell in love with my hometown and never left it. You know what I'm saying? She go visit the people in Memphis, but she a New York girl now. Donna Pryor, who's Donna Pryor Kelsick now. She lives in Atlanta, but she was from Taunton, and Taunton was maybe 45 minutes an hour from Clark. It's out there in Massachusetts. And Denise Cordova from Hempstead, New York. And Trudy, who was Miss Black America, Miss Black San Antonio, just a powerhouse on the planet. And we lost her last December, and it just like broke all 4 of us. It shocked me to death. I don't know whether I thought we was all gonna hold hands and go see God together. I don't know, but we ran like that. So when you ask me, and young people ask me after we have moved into the village, I said, did you ever wear, clothes like us? Did you ever shop at the mall? And so I know in a nutshell, that is what people ask. And so, of course, I had, I didn't wear African clothes to college. As a matter of fact, I dressed up as Billie Holiday most days. So the point is, I was into a whole nother vibe then. I have a degree in theater and stuff. I'm a Pisces. And so party, college, it was good. Clark was about self-design majors. And, when I came out of there, just really popped, like graduated April. And the next thing you know, I was working in the news department at a radio station back in Savannah. And it took off like that. It took off. And then we went to cable, TV, and producing, and it took off. Last May we did a a movie on a plantation in Virginia, Tuckahoe Plantation. And so that I do love the fact that when the ego leaves you in that Aboku period and you move like this to the expansion, recognize again Obatala Jupiter expansion, and whatever it
Mhm.
is in those covenants and agreements, my ancestors source, that is what is opening out right here, sitting before you and getting ready to go to Africa for the first time, and all that in the past that I've tried to tell you is simply a story, you know. That's what we have is our stories. You said something earlier, and I wanted to mention that last night before I went to bed, I watch a lot of psychics, readers, astrologers. They tell me now I have to do it on my YouTube channel. Not that I don't want to, but it's like a lot. And this one, Freebird Tarot, they do a ladies' night on Monday nights. And last night was Fannie Lou Hamer's night.
Ooh.
And that is like all, like I could have been named Fannie Lou and I would have been all right. That's how much I love. And I love a lot of black women, all right.
Mhm.
You know
Right.
that's a long list. My auntie,
Right.
Nikki Giovanni, Angela Davis, don't make me make the list. But
Right.
she most definitely just energetically, because what I learned last night was like how much I didn't know about her, right? That just her energy, like Ida B. Wells and Sojourner Truth, just her energy, General Moses, Harry Tubman, they be right here. But I didn't know that she was the youngest of 20 children. I didn't know. I knew she had been beaten badly, but I didn't know she was beaten almost like within an inch of her life, where
Life.
she would
Yeah.
have injuries all of her life. I didn't know that they had taken her uterus and sterilized her and she
Hmm.
never even knew. Like, I just didn't know. And
Right.
that, I mean, that really, because these are all psychics and mediums having a visit with her, it was pretty powerful. It was pretty powerful.
What site was that? Because I want to go back and
Yeah,
listen
no,
to it.
I'll definitely text it to you. I've been
Ooh,
texting it to
please.
my
'Cause
friends all
I,
day
yeah.
because it teaches us a lot for one thing. And these are all white girls here, doing the thing. But
Right.
and I'm in those conversations with the Nature Connection Network and
Right.
decolonization and how we gonna break this down, right? And so the white people
Right.
trying to learn what the white people need to know, and the
Right
black
on.
people trying real hard not to get triggered no more. Like
Right.
we're exhausted. Please leave us alone. Don't trigger us. So we're trying to figure out how to have the conversations we have so that we
Right
can
on.
easily get on the middle of the bridge, because this standing on the opposite sides of the bridge is getting us nowhere. And that
Yeah.
is not a good bill to be passing down to our children, that the best we could do was stand on either side of the bridge. And so, they that gift, watching it, I guess I know what I'm watching, is to watch them go into the questions like, how did she do it? How did she get beaten down? And then they figured it out. You watch them in the process. So, whatever that spirit is inside of her, the more it got beat down, the more it got fired up. Like a phoenix coming back up from the ashes. She was just triggered back up. Like, you won't get me down no matter how much you beat me. And to that point, they did, if you look at it, they said, what else did she have to lose? They took
That's
her
right.
humanity. They took her feminine. They took everything from her. And so that's why she could go face front and say, I don't have a thing to lose here today. We'll go to the next level on it. How
Yeah.
about that? Yeah, like a Rosa Parks. When you done, you done. You know what I'm saying? When a black woman reached that point, very dangerous.
Real talk.
I try to people tell them all the time, you're very glad Michelle Obama wasn't president, because women have a way. We're for
Yeah.
real.
That's real
Yeah,
talk.
like that new sister on the Supreme Court. You feel that thing rocking and rolling. A few of them old ones about to drop off. That's
Right.
what her
Right on.
vibration will do. A black woman.
That's real talk. Let's. I want to talk to you about the Agun Society. How important is that to
It's
African
important to
culture?
everything. I just told you. And
Yeah.
the way I learned that is with the Santeria and those folks there. They can go. They can jump to Ocha, just like that. You got the
Hmm.
money. Okay, we take you to Ocha. Your Orisha is, and it went back home. And I had to tell that girl that because my godfather told it to me by right to room. You know what I mean? As above, so below. You don't really want to go shooting off to the stars unless you got all your issues in the
Right
earth
on.
that you live on straight. All those traumas and ancestral repairs have been looked at, acknowledged, so that they do not hinder your priesthood going forward. They support it.
Mm.
So the Egbe Egungun, for facts, when you come and see that cult get up and dance, you already know our ancestors moving in the house. You could tell by all of us moving. And like myself, a person fully paralyzed that they said would never walk again. Pretty much inside of all of our lives, we have seen and experienced our ancestors. We are our ancestors inside of us as the miraculous. And so that's facts. That's facts. I wouldn't want to pretend to the stars, the Orisha, unless my ground floor was handled, foundation. Yeah, so it's a foundational piece of the culture.
What do you suggest? How do you suggest people who may not know their ancestors get to learn who they are?
Yes.
Because I'm in California, a lot of people out here,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be general, but some people, as I work with a lot of girls, some of them don't know their grandparents, they don't know their
Right.
great grandparents. They couldn't even tell you the part of the South or the East that they people came from to come here.
I was doing a gourd class once over here in a school over here. And that happened. They pulled two classes together. It was crunch for time and all like that. And I wanted to have a little circle with them to anchor them, exactly what you asking me right now.
Okay.
And we went there. It might have been February or Black History Month or something like that. And girl, no one in the room, I'm telling you, about 30-some children could tell me their grandparents' name. Somebody had to give me a drink of water. I almost couldn't breathe. White, black. And so after I got myself together, I said to them, I said, let me help you realize why that caught my breath like that. Because I'm a mother, a grandmother. And so I look ahead to the lives of my children and I understand you all will be the same age as my children are in a real world. And I'm trying to wrap my mind around whether you felt like you dropped here from Mars or, right. And so I tried to strike their curiosity that if you don't know this, haven't met these people or like this, now you become I Spy in your house and you figure out where are the family pictures and you ask questions. You are that child. But it is a particular road. This road here, which I do the most, I'd love to say I'm always in Obatala, and this shit, I'm not. And they told me that. And again, I say the veils are very thin between myself and so all the time I got 3 initiations. This is not initiations, but elevations. The exact question you're asking. Right. What happens when known or unknown, adopted or daddy had 3 wives, or all the stories that our people have? How do you pull in enough of your DNA to tap your own Akashic records, to tap your own cellular memory? And this is why, as the Christians say, if you ask, but you do have to ask. You don't get to just think about it. No. You really, the tongue is the littlest member, wields the most power. That's why God said, let there be light. I ain't tell you God thought about it. Said, set it. And so for us to, there's so many works here, Rolanda. Some works are for the young people that are traumatized, that all they know that they have seen of the living people are drunks, drug addicts. They're scared. Okay, guess what? I don't even want to know the parents of these people. And so you have to work your way back one line at a time to the well ancestor. There is one. You have to literally go over till you reach that well ancestor, that great grandmother or grandfather who was waiting for you. Say, all right, you ready? Yeah, they were waiting. They said, all right, you ready to clean it up? Because we can do it. They're dead and we can do it. And that's how we go in and we do ancestral repair. So that, and I've done it. I've been blessed to do that for people. I'm thinking clearly of my brother Shada. I met him in a candle shop. He knew no one. He only knew his parents. Big psychic guy, another Pisces, big psychic spiritualist. But he finally got to that place where he knew that he had to make this connection. And he didn't have not one. It took me a minute. I just couldn't even imagine because he's grown. He's not old as me, but he maybe 10 years younger than me. He grown and never met another relative of his only
Wow.
his mother and father he knew. And so we had to go with the 9 glasses of water and cat. I said, well, they are there because you've never seen their pictures or don't know their names. You're here. That means they're here.
Mm.
And so we did that altar for that with no names, no obituaries, no pictures, just benevolent spirits who are mine. And so big, yeah, big priest now of Oya. Big, probably within that first year of him coming into that position, not knowing nothing. He had by the year's end, he had been to Africa and back and was initiated a priest of Oya. Just like that. Like that connection to the ancient African ancestors was made, and they say, you belong here. And yanked him right out of there and did it.
Wow.
Yeah. And then there are people that, know their people and they know all the skeletons in the closet. And, you know what I mean? Yeah. And you got
Right
to
on.
weave through that. Well, all right. And so they need their own place. And no, you can't have them all together. And you know what I mean? So it's a very particular work. I love it. It's what my eyes pop open in the morning to do. But
Yeah,
your question, to be honest with you, is that I do say they need people like us to bounce some stuff off of.
right.
But and to be that midwife. That's what my business card says, spiritual midwife. To remind them, pay attention to your dreams, get a dream journal, be very conscious, be very relaxed into it. Do not struggle with it, particularly the ones that are adopted struggle when they don't have information on the birth parents and stuff like that. Don't struggle. Because it's like you struggling against yourself. Their very blood is running in your veins. No problem here. When you relax, those channels will open. And it's just like that. I say to people, it's not just like that, but that would be a similar thing. Sometimes you get the static between stations and then you just adjust until it's clear. Third eye, hearing is all very clear because they're right there. That's why the Bible said, ask and it shall be given unto you. But a lot of people don't live their lives in trust and belief has been beat the heck out of people of color.
Yeah.
And so they that is where the trauma and the trouble is that, their own sense of self is way low. And what does that say about the people who created them? You know what I mean? So it's really about rebuilding that sense of we. It's like I do a workshop in the woods called We is the New Pronoun. And I do say we a lot. And people say, who you and who? And I be like, myself and all these ancestors that you don't see, but that raised me. Right, but that raised me. Understand that everybody, I'm a blessed Black child. You know what I mean? I could name you 300 of my ancestors that either I went to their funeral, I know what the chicken like, I know what street they live on, I know what church they went to. And Black people don't have that expansive file of people all in the heavens for them. They lucky if they know 10.
Right. That's real talk.
Yeah, most of them of their own age. That's how much the times have turned. 20, 30 years ago, you might ask them 10 people, they tell you about people who lived a while back. Now they tell you about my cousin, my brother, okay, that went to the ancestral realms just like that. So what I'm saying to you is there are many ingredients that have to come into that area truly for a person that desires to rest well with their African soul, because that's what's knocking at the door about their culture or their ancestors or any part of it. What you know is they are not caught up. They are not the material girl out here with the weave and the lashes. Yeah, they're not her. And they are one that, like High John the Conqueror, they're not going to be able to shake it. That's why our pleasure, we are compelled by a spiritual force that we cannot resist. And thank God we can recognize that. We don't struggle against that. We don't resist against that. We are, in some of us, the ones that are moving in Ray, will learn to walk with it and do our best to balance it, because we are here. We are in Earth School. And so you're right. People in your own family, people that you run with, You asked that a minute ago. I didn't have a lot of people that reflected back to me African culture and their dress. And, I went years working on my mom getting out of the wig. And we're glad to say the last, 6 years of her life, she was beautiful. Nefertiti and braids. She would always look so very regal, and she just really moved to a high place. But that's again the age that we have watched the Negroes become black and proud with James Brown, and then we watched that era move into African Americans, and we also watched the shun of like, no, I'm not African, because if you ask anyone in the village, that they would say, I'm an African living in America. Let us be very clear. Yeah, let us be very clear. You know what I mean? By no choice of my own, and so here we are.
What do you do when you have an ancestor who was not of good character while they was on the planet? How do you deal with those ancestors?
We have one today, the young lady that's working to help write this script for the big, huge. And so we can only say this was a Jamaican gentleman, and there was an Obeah woman involved, and just all the parts of children that didn't even know him, children that he absolutely walked away from and had no fatherhood or support for. And so, yeah, a soul that has not lived a life of integrity or good character, Iwapwele. As I said to her, and we always allow those people to vent because they need to say what all they had to say. Half of it they wanted to say to that person, and maybe they didn't get the opportunity to say it. So we let them say it. But at the end of the day, I said, well, we say Ekuashe Hinde because we recognize that in that crossing, in that elevation, all that all that was not good, all that was not acceptable, in fact was very unacceptable, died. It died in that body avatar and it went into the ground. And the next opportunity, the next rebirth is what we are holding up under this Kuashe Hinde, that you have gained a powerful ancestor, that their elevation into the ancestral realms as back into pure light that could hold none of that darkness and those dark deeds from that particular earth walk. We just hold that for them. So, there are various parts. Always we ask, again, there are such protocols in the spirit world, because if I was standing with you and we had that concern and we're there and you're getting ready to elevate, some people like that have had various colorful people in the family. Yeah, right. Then we have usually what has to happen is Larry has to be done for the descendant that's doing the elevate and clear that head and those chakras. And then I say, you got a list of names there, right? For your mother's people, no one that married in, no one that died suddenly, no one that committed suicide. These are people who lived a life, had a natural death. And then you have father's people, and we will have to take the Iggy acoustic and we will have to ask on each one of them. We try to clear out. But when that energy is invoked and given life, certainly by the shedding of blood, then it's going to come in a pure form. It's going to shed itself, and that's the point. You're not bringing in people married in. You're not bringing in people murdered or stuff like that. And it is not to say that they are cast off or forgotten. It is to say you are going for the strongest light in the lighthouse first. You're going to get them up. Because the healthy one back there told you, come on, we're going to clean this up now. And they tell you who is anchored there to do that work. And slowly but surely, we can bring those other less evolved souls that have crossed over at the end of a pretty colorful life. You killed somebody, what you do, and roll them in. So there's always. That's the beauty of it. Yeah, it is always, always the evolution, nothing new under the sun, my grandmother would say. Nothing new under the sun.
In African spiritual traditions, is there a room for people to be elders? Because sometimes we spend a lot of time going after the young in culture. We're looking for the young blood and new whatever. But sometimes it feels like, not all the time, but just sometimes it feels like, is there, do we pay respect, a whole and high regard our elders?
Absolutely. Queen Afua does that. And I say it's true. Here's the way our prayer goes.
Okay.
Our prayer goes as we have spoken to Olodumare, and then we have Mojubad, all of those in the ancestral realms. Next is the Kinkan Mashe, and that's for the living people, just like that. Just like that. Our teachers, our elders, people who influence anything that we are walking with, they get prayed for next. Kinkan Mashe, may no harm come to my Elosh, my Babalosh, my teachers, my elders. Agba is the word for elders. I pray for anytime I'm over there, whatever I'm doing, of course. Absolutely. And that's what I say to people who would dare to even try. They do try to stitch me. I'm on staff as people's elders. Baby, I'm a baby elder. You understand? I have at least 5 to 6. Do you understand that? In their 90s, 80s.
Right on.
Yeah. And I sit at their knee and I serve them, and I can be humble with them. And that is an amazing thing for me. I take it as no small feat. I was on an elder circle last night for the elders of the NCN community. It was probably about 13 or 14 of them. Some of them I know from Art of Mentoring or this, and one I didn't know, and I called him Papa Drew. And I had to say, because as probably, was I the only BIPOC person on there? I think I might have been. But good thing I had called the meeting. And I said, that's our culture. There's no way, okay, I would turn people over in the graves of my family if I just tried to call you Drew like I knew you or grew up with you and like that. That's not our protocol for elders. You're going to be Uncle so-and-so or Baba so-and-so, and that's here, and that's in my village. That's some woman in Kroger that needs help with bags to her car. They would be, Mother, can I help you? You know what I'm saying? So because quiet as it's kept, that is the first like real law rule of the Yoruba people. Quiet as it's kept is deference for one's elders. You can't go nowhere and say the ears don't pass the head. You can't go nowhere if you don't know your place in the series of things, like the divine order of the Odu. I mean, there's order, and that's the main thing that I think is troubling a little bit out here. That through our churches and the Christians and the different parts, there's been this free for all kind of thing where no sense of order in the spirit world or how things are done. And I never will forget that same first reading where I learned I was a child of Obatala. That's the first thing Ioni Shango said to me. She threw them shells. She was throwing Marinde Lagoon. And she looked up at me. She said, "Oh, you come from people that do things decent and in order." I said, "Yes, ma'am." She didn't know me from Jack. We had just met. I said, "Yes, ma'am." Wow. I don't know what you're looking at, but now that's the truth. That right there is the truth. If my mother sent me to some relative's house for the summer or whatever, you could believe I won't be in their house not even 4 hours, and they done tell you who gonna wash the dishes, who gonna take the garbage out. Like everybody I come from does stuff decent and in order. That's and I'm a Pisces with a Virgo moon, so I came into the right clan, I guess, because we are kind of nitpicky. We have to have order, and it's not just order in earthly things. It is definite order in spiritual things. I tell people that all the time when they just do the tricky, want it your way, Burger King. I said, really? Play with fire, you'll get burned. Okay? Play with fire, you will get burned. This is not the place to move around with stuff you don't know. What could happen on the other hand, what ripple effect you put in motion.
Right on. So yeah, this is my final question.
All right.
What words of advice would you give to anyone who is looking to seek the spiritual path of traditional African spirituality? What advice would you give them?
You're not going to give me any clues about the person themselves, like, whether
No. Yeah. Like somebody's watching, they like, some people see Beyonce and be like, I think I'm Oshun. It's like, dude, like that is a video. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I do. That part. That was exactly what I was asking you. Well, we can go. How about we do that? We go the gamut from Beyonce all the way over here to a young person that might be going on a road trip with you,
Mhm.
that's
Right.
watching your life. And I
Right.
would say that's the first piece. The first piece is to be humble, you know, and with that humility, to know that what is growing in you, your African soul, your remembrance, your, you know, your divine destiny, whatever it is you're reaching for to embody, and so you can walk out. Remember that you can show them better than you can tell them. You know, I don't know how
Mm.
many times over the course of my life I've said to people, I'm not a Jehovah Witness. And I don't have anything against Jehovah. My first babysitter was Jehovah Witness. But what I meant by that was Yoruba culture, at best, is not a religion. It is a spirituality. And as such, then, you know, I've had even white people say to me, you know, no, I brought so and so to see you because, you know, these other people come and go and they kind of are who they are while they're here. But, you know, when they leave, maybe not. You, you live here. I said, that's correct. There is no light switch on and off from
Right
whether
there.
I am moving to feed the birds in the morning or water my plants here for Batala or tend to my altars or my temples or my own temple or whatever. There's no disengagement. And I think that young and or older people, wherever they arrive at this decision to explore, to do adventures and explorations, which is what we do in nature's culture and spirit. And when you choose to explore that, that is where you have to center yourself. You have to begin to look at your own sacred navigation and what are the distractions? What are the things that pull you off from that? Oh, you was going to do so and so, because that's usually where the traps are. And a lot of times in our workshops, you know, even now in the Crowns of Isis Rites and Passages, which is a beautiful year-long program for women,
Mhm.
um, we do a self-assessment. We do the SWOTs. We do, well, what are your strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, and threats? Okay, let's just look at the situation. You understand that part?
You know.
Because if it were your cell phone or your car, you would break that thing down and you'd look at the situation, wouldn't you? But well, how you out here with no map? What's happening? And
Mm.
so this happens for people of all spiritual persuasions. Shall I say it that way? I was trying to say culture. They said no. Everybody don't have culture. Yeah, everybody don't have culture. But whatever persuasion that is, what we walk with, just like Secret or Shambhala or the Buddhists or the Dalai Lama, there is a discipline in here. You talk about some order in the spirit world. When connected to source or remembering oneself as a star seed or an ancient being from the culture that they are pulling upon to make a change in life ways here in America, yes, you must observe how well you live there. And lots and lots and lots of people, Rolanda, you I know, they visit. And we
Mhm.
understand that. And then sometimes they come for a more extended visit over here in the cultural world, you know, like people
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
make the pilgrimage to Oyatunji. And at some point in that, they're so, if it is called like that, like a Fannie Lou Hamer, if it's called, it's probably gonna make it. But
Right. Right.
others, yeah, it's probably gonna make it.
Mhm.
But you know, others can then get pulled or have excuses or I want to do it my way. Yeah, I'll wear white, but it needs to be jeans and they need to be tight. You know, so you have anyone, and of course, from day one, charlatans, Christian church, we could just go on and on with that, with people that adopt what they want to. They're very
Mhm.
selective about the way in which they will gauge a walk in the sacred. But a
That's
walk in the sacred has, you know, it's a balance, as with anything else, as with the you know, people out there, the east and the yin and yang. That's the facts. You know what I'm saying? I never forget. I was in the backyard. This is a good story, kind of to close. Beautiful murder of crows back there. I spent the first 2 years of the pandemic on the back porch at my middle daughter's house in New Orleans. But one day, a son-in-law was moving through the backyard and he had discovered that these big branches from the trees had fallen onto the roof of the house and they were covered with caterpillars. And so here I am on the back porch, I'm trying to do just all my parts, Zoom calls or whatever. And I see young son moving with a blowtorch. And I said, what you about to do? He said, oh, I'm going to burn up these branches. The caterpillars is bad for the roof. And I said, listen to me closely. If I wasn't sitting here, that might be an option for you. But in that, I am sitting here speaking with the crows and the trees and in my prayers, and this is where I live. And you've been knowing me for a while. This is where I live. If I witness something like you murdering thousands of caterpillars right here before my eyes, you have canceled out all of the prayers that this earth Maj has. That's the basis, Yolanda. Yorubas are animists. We believe in the spirit of everything. And yeah, as my king has said to me a couple of times, yeah, you're a real Orthodox Yoruba, aren't you? I said, I guess so. But in my world, I just don't switch out. I don't be trying to, I'm just not that one. This is not Burger King. We don't always get it our way. And that's when they ask you, have you done the sacrifice? Well, that's not always money or killing something. Lots of times you may have to shift a behavior. You may have to shift a pattern to say that you are upholding a cultural code of conduct. How you going to live? Because really, that's it. I'm going to be real honest with you. Mm-hmm. How we walk as an ancestral priest and or an Orisha priest is definitely based on every day where are our cultural codes, again, that we show better than we tell. I'm not here to lecture anyone on it. As the old people would say, the life that person lives speaks for them. You ain't even need to say nothing more. We can go ahead and sing and take them on to the cemetery now. And and we knew people. I knew people like that. They lived their life and then they left. And like a Fannie Lou Hamer, and what pages they turned for us, we should be humble enough and up to the task. I always tell people, you want to play up here on the porch with the big dogs, then you're gonna have to work that out or not. There will be no judgment. No one is judging or shaming you. You could have just as much fun back on the truck with the puppies, whichever you choose. But life is about choice, and how we live culturally and or spiritually. It's absolutely about choice. Choice in every moment. From how we bathe ourselves, our spiritual self, our rogations on the head. Batala. Maybe not all Orishas do that. We Efundela, purity enters the house. So like we're getting ready to go to Sweat Lodge here on my mother's born day, Saturday the 14th. And I love sweat lodges. I love purification rituals. I love that light. That's just one way. Some people fast to get there. Some people run to get there. You know what I mean? So, that part I would advise. What's your lane? Where you at? Are you swimming? Are you surfing? What you doing when you feeling the power of the forces of nature that we call Orisha? What you doing when that happens? Yeah. Where are you? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. I enjoy. I can listen to you talk all day, honestly.
We could be here for a while.
You have such wisdom, and but it's also relatable truth. Like, it's not something you got to rack your brain on. It's like, that makes sense. Like,
it does make sense. It's granny. That's what'll happen. And I have one of the books from the Wild Darlings there, and what it is just the wise sayings. Mm-hmm. That's what I am telling you. I think, as far as I know, I'm in here, but you out there, and other people have said it. Wow, you just been like, wow, like where do you get that? And I say it's because old people raised me, and they raised me in such a balance. One of my grandmother of many things that she would tell me on any given day was like, "Oh, God didn't need your help to raise the sun up today." When you're thinking too much, you're something crazy. And so, the older wise will say, oh no, honey, back up a little bit, and they had all of these sayings, which now, almost at my 69th dance around the sun, I recognize that that's how I do life. That's how I face anything, challenges, joys, deads, whatever it is next. I face it. I think back, and I guess a lot of I can remember that point in Christianity. So think what Jesus would do. And sometimes I do that. Sometimes all kinds of people show up and say, "We give it. Can I have a word?" Mandela might show up, or like now, it's Stephen Biko. All the things that come back to my life from my childhood, I never understood that. Why the people in South Africa going through apartheid felt like my relatives. All them children got massacred in that schoolyard.
Mhm.
All that, and look where we're going now. We're going
Yeah,
to actually where they lay and rest, and Winnie Mandela, and things that I just saw on a tube like this when I was a child. And so you never know.
that's
Yeah,
right.
that's what my grandmother say. You don't believe it today? Live a little longer.
Just keep living. That's
Just
my
keep
motto.
living. That's what you do.
Living.
It has been such a joy.
Thank
And I
you.
hope I come back like after. I'll be back around June sometime, but
Okay, when do
I'll
you
come
leave out
visit.
for Africa?
I'm leaving out the beginning of March. I
Oh
have an
wow.
artist residency over there for 3 weeks. I'm so excited. Over in a sacred palace in a mountain. I'm excited about that part. And
Yeah.
then we're going to meet up for this road trip with the van and the tents and all that stuff in Cape Town on the last weekend of March.
Wow.
And for some people only going for 11 days out, we're going to ride up the coast all the way to Durban for 21 days. And then I got married to myself this past July. We're going to have a second wedding with a lot of other people who are going to balance their masculine and feminine. And after that's a life-changing thing, honey. Let me just say to you, as a
Yeah.
person who's been married to other people twice, that's a life-changing
Right.
thing. And after I went past you to
Right
write your own
on.
vows, we made our own rings. It was a real deal. We did this in a camp with little young maidens and stuff. And it made me think, like, why did we get set up for this in the first place? Like, who told you that you could keep these vows or be this to a person outside yourself when no one even allowed you to practice that on yourself?
Yeah, right on. That's so
It's
true.
amazing. So we'll be up there in a big labyrinth at the edge. That mountain was inspired in the Lord of the Rings. I can't wait. I just won't even be able to
Are you
talk.
going to Table Mountain or?
Well, we are going to go past Table Mountain, but no,
Okay.
this sacred mountain
Yeah.
is way up there, somewhere above Durban. And
Okay.
yep, so that's where the 21 days end. And then some people will fly out of Johannesburg back. I'll go back and finish up the residency. And then I'm up to Nigeria and to go back to the town of the Oludoyes and be welcomed back there. That's a beautiful ceremony. I was telling her today, Danny Glover and Forrest Whitaker did it together. And that's how I saw how it's done, how they receive you back. So I'm definitely going to the village of my people and be received back, and prayerfully, move toward the initiation of Iya Nifa. So whatever the ancestors have in store, mine is to show up. They say, get your party dresses. Mine is to show up. And they've done that every time. When I got initiated, they do it every time. And they told me that. They said, you'll wait. You have to wait until everything is good in America, because you're not that type to go and come right back. You're not coming right back.
Right
So,
on.
yeah.
Well, safe journeys to you. I'm so excited for you. I can't wait to
Right?
hear all about your trip. That's what I can't wait to hear.
And how do we know? Maybe you'll go too. We don't know.
Who
Hey,
knows?
we'll put
Who
it out
knows?
there.
That's
All
right.
right. Blessings,
Thank you.
blessings, blank.
All right.
All
Okay.
right.
All right. Peace. Yeah.
Peace.
Oh,